I lost my apartment, my stability, and nearly my sanity, all thanks to the poor, single mom next door, Lila, who weaponized false welfare claims and noise complaints to drive me out. But when I discovered the truth, that her poverty funded a luxury SUV and 3 secret rental properties, I didn't just get mad. I got even, and I made sure she lost every single thing she pretended she never had. The question is, was I the asshole for pulling the pin on her perfect, fraudulent life? My apartment in the Willow Creek complex wasn't just a rental, it was my sanctuary. For 4 years, I had been the perfect tenant, quiet, paid on time, and never caused trouble. It was the first place I truly felt settled after finally landing a stable, remote work job in financial analysis. The lease was due for renewal in 90 days, and I was already mentally decorating for another year. Then Lila moved in next door, and everything changed. Lila was a master of the struggling single mother persona, and she laid it on thick from the moment she introduced herself. Her children, a boy and a girl under the age of 8, were sweet but energetic. Lila immediately started talking about her circumstances, how hard it was to make ends meet, the nightmare of navigating state assistance, and how grateful she was to finally secure subsidized housing. I felt instant, genuine sympathy. I baked cookies for the kids, offered to watch them for a quick run to the grocery store, and went out of my way to be neighborly. I saw her as a woman trying her best against tough odds. The first complaint came 3 weeks in. A polite note slipped under my door from Mr. Henderson, the property manager, citing noise after 10 p.m. I was confused. I usually watch TV with subtitles on headphones after 9. When I inquired, he mentioned it was about pounding or rhythmic noises. I immediately thought of my ergonomic mechanical keyboard and bought a silent membrane replacement and a thick rug for the floor of my home office, just to be overly cautious. The second complaint came a week later, this time directly from Lila, tearfully telling me how my constant moving and noise was disrupting her kids' sleep, and how important their routine was given their situation. She managed to make me feel profoundly guilty for simply existing. I apologized profusely and moved my desk to the quietest corner of the apartment. But the complaints didn't stop. They escalated into the absurd. Mr. Henderson forwarded emails detailing noise from a running shower at 7 a.m., yes, I have to work, a kettle boiling too loud, and a disturbing rhythmic bass that turned out to be my refrigerator compressor cycling on. I started walking on eggshells. I wore socks everywhere. I stopped cooking meals that required chopping. My anxiety soared, replaced by a growing, cold suspicion. I tried to talk to Lila, but she would instantly pivot, crying about the stress and how she hoped she wouldn't lose her housing because of my actions. She was a professional victim, and it was working. The one thing that truly didn't fit the narrative was the vehicle. She drove a beat-up, decade-old sedan for the typical school run, but sometimes, parked suspiciously 2 streets over, I would see a flawless, black Lexus SUV, tinted windows and all. It wasn't just nice, it was expensive. It was never in our complex's parking lot. One evening, I was taking out the trash late and saw Lila quickly slip into the driver's seat of that Lexus. She saw me, her eyes flashed with panic for a split second, and then she sped off down the street, clearly avoiding the main road. I managed to quickly snap a blurry photo of the license plate on my phone, half-jokingly thinking, some single mom's side hustle must be amazing. 2 weeks before the lease renewal was finalized, I received the official notice: my lease would not be renewed. The complex cited repeated and documented disturbances and a pattern of neighbor conflict. My stomach dropped. I fought back, demanding to see the evidence, which Mr. Henderson reluctantly provided. Lila had kept meticulous, false logs. She had called Child Protective Services for a bogus wellness check, which was instantly dismissed. But logged. She had even managed to get a doctor's note claiming the stress of my unpredictable noises was affecting her daughter's minor, pre-existing anxiety condition. She had weaponized her poverty and her children's alleged fragility to make me the toxic, disruptive element. When I confronted Lila, this time without the pretense of politeness, she dropped the act. Her eyes were ice cold. "You're gone. This unit is perfect for my children, and you were always in the way with your job and your quiet life," she hissed. "Some people just know how to play the game better than others, Sarah." That level of deliberate cruelty, ruining my stability just to claim a better apartment for herself, cracked my soul. I had 60 days to uproot my life, move my remote office, and find a new place in a crazy market. I ended up in a temporary, smaller, older apartment that smelled faintly of old pizza and regret. The anger I felt wasn't hot, it was a cold, precise fury. I was determined to find out what that Lexus was hiding. The license plate was my starting point. I spent the first 2 weeks in my new, cramped apartment doing nothing but research. I leveraged my financial analysis skills and the dark corners of the internet. I started with simple reverse lookups, which led to a generic LLC registration in the next county. From there, I cross-referenced the LLC's registration address with public property tax databases, municipal recorders' offices, and a lot of creative searching. That's when the dam broke. Layla was not poor. Layla was not struggling. Layla was, in fact, an affluent, small-scale landlord. The LLC, registered under her mother's maiden name but with Layla's own social security number flagged in the subrecords, owned 3 rental properties, 2 duplexes and a townhouse, all generating consistent, significant monthly income. The black Lexus SUV was a company asset. Her combined rental income and the market value of the properties placed her well into the upper middle-class income bracket, miles away from qualifying for subsidized housing, food stamps, or any of the assistance she was receiving and openly discussing. She wasn't just getting benefits, she was defrauding the government on a massive scale while living in an apartment intended for genuinely low-income families. And she had used that fraudulently acquired subsidized unit to weaponize my eviction. The sheer audacity took my breath away. She had played the system, played me, and played the property manager like a violin. I spent the next week compiling a digital dossier, screenshots of property records, the estimated rental income based on Zillow and local market listings, vehicle registration details, and the timeline of her noise complaints versus her public declarations of poverty. I didn't just want to report her, I wanted to hand the relevant authorities a fully completed case file on a silver platter. I sat with the file for a whole day, wrestling with the question of morality. This wasn't just calling the cops on a noisy neighbor. This would detonate her life. Her kids would suffer the consequences of her crimes. This was the ultimate, scorched earth revenge. AITA? I asked myself even before the real AITA post. But then I remembered the cold flash in her eyes, the sheer entitlement, and the fact that she had cheerfully ruined my home and stability based on a mountain of calculated lies and fraud that was stealing resources from people who genuinely needed them. She had initiated a criminal enterprise to benefit herself, and she had dragged me into the wreckage. I decided that justice, in this case, was simply the truth delivered to the right people. I filed the anonymous reports with the state's Department of Social Services Fraud Hotline, the IRS's whistleblower office, for the undeclared rental income, and, most satisfyingly, the housing authority that administered the subsidized lease. I mailed hard copies and provided email links to the public records. My job was done. The next 3 weeks were agonizing. I kept checking the local news and the online listings for my old complex. Nothing. Then, a text from my old neighbor, Maria, who lived across the hall from Lila. "Did you hear what happened?" It was chaos. 2 federal cars and a tow truck showed up this morning. They took that huge black car. They marched Lila out with a box of her things. "She's gone, Sarah." Management said they found out about her true circumstances. I felt a rush, a high, unlike anything I'd ever experienced. The feeling was both electrifying and deeply unsettling. A few days later, Mr. Henderson called me directly. He was apologetic and ashamed. He confirmed the details. Lila was subjected to an immediate audit and investigation. The evidence I provided was undeniable. She was immediately stripped of her housing, benefits, and was facing serious tax evasion and welfare fraud charges. They had frozen her assets, including the rental properties, as collateral against the hundreds of thousands of dollars the state and federal government were demanding back. She had lost the Lexus, the properties, and the apartment, and potentially faced prison time. Everything she had built on lies had evaporated in a single day. Now, I sit in my new, slightly depressing apartment. It's quiet, mostly. I have my stability back, but the silence feels heavy. I didn't just get my old neighbor evicted, I annihilated her financial life and exposed her criminal fraud. I acted out of a desire for justice, but also out of a deep, bitter desire for revenge after she deliberately sabotaged my life. I won. I am safe. But was the total destruction of her life, even her fraudulent life, a proportionate response to a false eviction? AITA for reporting my neighbor's fake welfare claims after she got me evicted?